So we hit 15 on wizards, so I think we're gonna swap over to bard or something. Because I want to start getting things to level 15. But I want to listen to like something vaguely productive. So we're just gonna go through. I mean, sure. Q-Star? Why not? Let's figure it out. Being it's a sequel from yesterday. Me trying to explain what the hell that is.
As you might expect, I have been researching non-stop about this apparent powerful AI discovery that insiders at OpenAI said could threaten humanity. I've spoken to every insider I know and done a ton of research, and I am not claiming to have solved the puzzle, but I can provide some genuine clues that I think will be at least part of the answer. Normally I like to be a lot firmer than that, but this is the best I can do. Now, the first thing to note, of course, is that OpenAI have now denied that Sam Altman's ouster was precipitated by this safety letter to the board. As my previous 3 videos have shown, there was certainly a lot else going on, so it might well not just be about this AI breakthrough. Second, I just want to quickly debunk this clip that's doing the rounds where people are claiming that Sam Altman called this new creation a creature, not just a tool. Actually, if you watch to the end, he's very much saying he's glad that people now think of it as part of the toolbox. So despite this frantic headline, I am not trying to overhype things, but I genuinely think I figured a couple of things out. Let's get to it. Later in the article, these insiders, these researchers, flagged up work by an AI scientist team, the existence of which multiple sources confirmed. This AI scientist team was formed by combining earlier CodeGen and MathGen teams at OpenAI. Their work on exploring how to optimize existing AI models to improve their reasoning was flagged in the letter to the board. Now, there is very little public information about either the CodeGen or MathGen teams, but I dredged up this old tweet from Sam Altman. Yes, by the way, I am now on Twitter. I finally succumbed. Anyway, Sam Altman said, "Really exciting process supervision result from our MathGen team." And he linked to a critical paper that I covered back in the spring. It's called Let's Verify Step by Step. And that paper is the crux of the video. That's what I think the former MathGen, now AI scientist team were working on. And take this tweet in September by Noam Brown at OpenAI. "My teammates and I at OpenAI are hiring ML engineers for research on LLM multi-step reasoning. We recently hit a state-of-the-art 78% on the math benchmark, which I'll get to in a second. Our new plans are even more ambitious. I'm only just getting started, but you might already be glimpsing why I think this paper is the crux of the new development. Here's another reason. What's much more ambitious than 78%? Acing such tests. That's apparently what they've achieved behind the scenes, at least according to Reuters. And what's another bit of evidence? Well, we have this exclusive report from The Information. Again, similar frantic headline. OpenAI made an AI breakthrough before Altman firing, stoking excitement and concern. But who led that breakthrough? The technical breakthrough, they say, was spearheaded by OpenAI chief scientist Ilya Sutskever. And the most recent paper on Archive listing Ilya Sutskever as an author is the Let's Verify Step-by-Step paper. Now, at this point, I know you want me to get to what it means, but with so many theories floating out there, I want to give you yet more evidence that at least one of the breakthroughs links to Let's Verify Step-by-Step. And I think I might even know what the other breakthrough is. The same article in The Information talks about Sutskever working on ways to allow language models to solve tasks that involve reasoning, like math or science problems. It talks about how he had this secret program called GPT-0. And here's where it gets interesting. The team hypothesized that giving language models more time and computing power to generate responses to questions could allow them to develop new academic breakthroughs. And Lucas Kaiser, who we will definitely be seeing more of in this video, indeed he appears in the thumbnail, apparently held a key role in the GPT-0 project. And look at this, among the techniques the team experimented with was an ML concept known as test time computation. That's apparently meant to boost language models' problem-solving abilities. And we have 100 speculations online about what this might mean. But I knew that name rang a bell, and I dug up this 2021 paper which cites test time compute. And what is this random paper that Philip is talking about? Well, it's from OpenAI, and look at some of the co-authors. Carl Cobb of the MathGen team and Lucas Kaiser cited in the information. This was actually one of the precursor papers to Let's Verify Step by Step, which I will explain in a moment. It introduced the now famous in ML circles GSM 8K dataset. That's 8,000 grade school math problems. More importantly though, it trialed this method of, at test time, generating many candidate solutions and selecting the one ranked highest by a verifier. And I'm going to massively oversimplify at this point and just say that a verifier is a separate model trained only at this point in this paper to spot good solutions, solutions that get the answer correct. And what the paper proposed was getting the base LLM to generate hundreds of solutions and then getting a separate verifier to spot the ones that were likely the most correct. And in a nutshell, the authors noticed that if they invested more computing power in generating more solutions and taking a majority vote among the top verifier ranked solutions, that had a massive effect on performance. And that's what it means by test time compute. Investing your computing power while you're taking the test, not during training. So the model stays the same. You're not further training it or fine-tuning it. You're investing that computing power during test time, again, to generate potential solutions and take majority votes amongst them, self-consistency. They found that using a verifier in this way was better than fine-tuning because verification was a simpler task than generation. It's easier to check your answers than generate good ones. So investing time in checking answers was more fruitful. How much more fruitful? Well, the use of verifiers results in approximately the same performance boost as a 30 times model size increase. And then it gets prophetic when it says, and verifiers scale significantly better with increased data. And to hammer the point home, they said a 6 billion parameter model with verification slightly outperforms a fine-tuned 175 billion parameter model. Again, thereby offering a boost approximately equivalent to a 30x model size increase. And that team, by the way, with Lucas Kaiser, was probably drawing on work by a single dude done 6 months earlier in April 2021. While studying the board game Hex, the researcher Andy Jones found an interesting result. He said, along with our main result, we further show that the test time and train time compute available to an agent can be traded off, as we've seen, while maintaining performance. I read that paper in full and it was cited by no other than Noam Brown. He's the guy we saw earlier who joined OpenAI in July of this year. He said he's investigating how to make reasoning methods truly general. If successful, we may one day see LLMs that are 1,000 times better than GPT-4. And later in that thread, he cites that same paper from Andy Jones. And he concludes with this: all those prior methods are specific to the games they're talking about. But if we can discover a general version, the benefits could be huge. Yes, inference may be 1,000x slower and more costly, but what inference cost would we pay for a new cancer drug or for a proof of the famous mathematical Riemann hypothesis? And we'll come back to mathematical hypotheses in a moment. Anyway, improved capabilities are always risky, he went on. But if this research succeeds, it could be valuable for safety research as well. Notice that point about capabilities being risky. It does seem to me to be linking together into that Reuters story. Imagine, he says, being able to spend $1 million on inference to see what a more capable future model might look like. It would give us a warning that we would otherwise lack. Is that what OpenAI did when they recently pushed back the veil of ignorance? Did they just spend $1 million on inference and see what a more capable future model might look like? So that's test time compute, but what about let's verify step by step? Well, going back to that original 2021 verifier paper, they said this: the problem that they noticed with their approach back in 2021 was that their models were rewarding correct solutions, but sometimes there would be false positives, getting to the correct final answer using flawed reasoning. They knew this was a problem, and so they worked on it. And then in May of this year, they came out with let's verify step by step. In this paper, by getting a verifier or reward model to focus on the process, the P, instead of the outcome, the O, results were far more dramatic. Next, notice how the graph is continuing to rise. If they just had more, let's say, test time compute, this could continue rising higher. And I actually speculated on that back on June the 1st. That difference of about 10% is more than half of the difference between GPT-3 and GPT-4. And also, is it me or is that line continuing to grow, suggesting that when more compute is available, the difference could be even more stark? Imagine a future where GPT-4 or 5 can sample, say, 1 trillion 10 to the 12 solutions. So you're beginning to see my hypothesis emerging, a new and improved Let's Verify step by step called Q-star, drawing upon enhanced inference time compute to push the graph toward 100%. If you want more details on that process reward model, check out the video I did back then called Double the Performance. But the very short version is that they trained a reward model to notice the individual steps in a reasoning sequence. That reward model then got very good at spotting erroneous steps. Furthermore, when that model concluded that there were no erroneous steps, as we've seen from the graphs, that was highly indicative of a correct solution. Notice also that sometimes it could pick out such a correct solution when the original generator, GPT-4, only outputted that correct solution 1 time in 1,000. Furthermore, the method somewhat generalized out of distribution, going beyond mathematics to boost performance in chemistry, physics, and other subjects. So was it potentially the $1 million inference run that spooked the researchers? Or was it the potential to make radical breakthroughs in science? And a further bit of supporting evidence for this theory comes again from the information. It gives us a rough timeline. In the months following the breakthrough, Sutskever had reservations about the technology, and in July he formed the super alignment team. So the original breakthrough, whatever it was, had to have come way before July. That would fit much more with it being associated with Let's Verify step by step. Or again, maybe that combination of process reward modeling and inference time compute. And in a genuinely fascinating recent conference call, this is what Ilya Sutskever said in reply to a question asking about if models could produce mathematical conjectures.
How original or creative are the latest large language models? Of course, we know that, for instance, AlphaGo did some pretty creative moves when it won elections in South Korea. So that's but to be very concrete, do you think the existing models or some the next GPT-4, say GPT-5 or so, will be able to state a new non-trivial mathematical conjecture? I'm not saying proving it, I'm saying stating it.
Shabby.
Within the next 5 years.
Are you sure that the current model cannot do it?
I'm not sure, absolutely. Do you know what I mean?
I mean,
let me give you an example of something creative that GPT-4 can already do.
Obviously, we would have all loved to hear Ilya Sutskever's full answer to that question, but we never got a chance. But here's where we get to arguably the strongest bit of evidence that I've got. Remember that name again, Lucas Kaiser, cited in the exclusive information report. If you remember, he had that key role on the GPT-0 project. He was a co-author in both of the papers that I've brought up, and he was focused on test time computation to boost language models' problem-solving abilities. Well, as the article says, even more significantly, he was one of the co-authors of the original Attention is All You Need Transformers paper. And so presumably with that much pedigree, it would take quite a lot to get him excited. So I'm now going to show you some extracts from 2 YouTube videos, both of which have hardly any views, despite him being mentioned in these exclusives about Q-star. And Lucas Kaiser will describe in these videos how significant he thinks a variation of Let's Think Step by Step could be. First, he'll give you some further background on the breakthrough.
It needs to do this thinking inside its layers. That may not be enough time and space to do. Like, tell me what you're thinking, and only then give the answer. And if you do that, there is a recent paper that says the model can basically do any computation. It can even execute programs. It's Turing complete. And does this really help? So on mathematics, you can tell the model, hey, do this thinking, but do it like number each step, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, as you see here, and be very precise about each step. And then you can try to verify each of these steps of thinking separately, and even ask the model, was step 3 correct? right, was step 4 correct? And when you do that, like this MATH dataset, which is a little bit tougher math problems than the pure arithmetic, it was especially made to solve like what the models cannot do. If you add the thinking, you can get to like almost 80% just by allowing the model.
Not a big fan of this situation.
And it's not just mathematics where you can build this thinking.
He even goes as far as describing it as a major focus for deep learning in 2024.
If you think what is coming in the next years, I think there'll be a lot of focus on doing this thinking thing with deep learning, with language models, probably with chains of thought, but also these chains of thought currently they're just prompted, but maybe you need to do some fine-tuning, some learning. There'll be a lot of work there, but this is a very hard problem to solve, and we'll start with much simpler exercises and probably move forward. But I think this is something that the coming years will see a lot of work.
And in a sign of the significance he attributes to this method, he said it could even be revolutionary for multimodality.
I think you also need these
So
chains of
flexible.
thought that like you need to give the model the ability to think longer than it has layers. And but it can be combined with multimodal. So in the future the models will have this knowledge of the world and this generation, which we call chain of thought in text, but multimodality, this means just it's a chain of frames of what's going to happen to the world, which is basically how we sometimes think, what will if I go what will happen to me? And I think that will indeed be so with multimodality and this ability to generate sequences before you give an answer that will resemble what we call reasoning.
He then described how this method will help models to generalize from much less data.
Transformers are not the end, right? Then you can do GNNs, you can do recurrent.
How do you see the next 2 years of deep learning?
Yeah, I think they'll be as interesting as any previous 2 years or even more. I think there'll be a lot on the chain of thought, but very generally speaking. So also on the agents, libraries, possibly multimodal, where the chain is basically a simulation world. So I think that will be like one big topic, and I think this will make the models generalize much better from less data too.
And that might remind you something. Going back to Reuters and the information, Sutskever's breakthrough allowed OpenAI to overcome limitations on obtaining enough high-quality data to train new models, according to the insider with knowledge, a major obstacle for developing next-generation models. So according to my theory, this breakthrough is less about generating trillions and trillions of tokens worth of synthetic data, but more about using the data you've got much more efficiently. But now, alas, we must get to the bits that my theory can't explain, namely the name. The information cites two top researchers at OpenAI building on top of Sutskever's method a model called Q-star. Now, I've tested every link I could possibly find to the name Q-star with my theory about let's verify step by step. And while I do have some ideas, honestly, it's still an open question. And of course, I, like everyone, has to admit that there's a chance that I'm entirely wrong. When I put my idea to a senior ML researcher at a top AGI lab, he thought it had real legs, it was a genuine possibility. And he said one link to the name Q-star could be in a generic sense. Without getting too technical, Q-star refers to the optimal Q function, or optimal policy. Another possibility is that the Q references Q-learning. Generically, that's a reinforcement learning technique where an agent learns to make optimal decisions by exploring its environment. An agent chooses actions, see how they go, and then updates their policy. Basically, trial and error, trading off exploration of new steps or actions versus exploitation of actions you know have some good rewards. And here's where the analogy gets a little bit tenuous. Taking the reasoning steps in Let's Verify step by step is like choosing an action. After all, in the original paper, using test time compute in this way was described as a kind of search. And in Let's Verify, they hinted at a step forward involving reinforcement learning. They said, we do not attempt to improve the generator, the model coming up with solutions, with reinforcement learning. We do not discuss any supervision the generator would receive from the reward model, if trained with RL. And here's the key sentence. Although fine-tuning the generator with reinforcement learning is a natural next step, it is intentionally not the focus of this work. Is that the follow-up work that they did? I mean, you can kind of think of learning for process supervision as minimizing the cumulative probability of failure, which is the equivalent of maximizing the probability of success. And after all, maximizing a sum of rewards over multiple steps is exactly what Q-learning aims to do. If any of you, though, have better guesses for the analogy, and I'm sure you do let me know in the comments. But what about the star? Well, again, here I am truly speculating. Unlike the earlier parts of the video in which I am much more confident, this is much more speculative and tenuous. Peter Liu of Google DeepMind had this idea. Remember the leak talked about acing math tests? He said, sounds like OpenAI got some good numbers on GSM 8K. Remember, that's the set of questions made for that original verifier paper back in 2021. He said he's speculating, but there's a star in this paper, a technique that fine-tunes a model to its own better outputs. In a nutshell, it involves fine-tuning a model on the outputs it generated that happen to work. Keep going until you generate rationales that get the correct answer, and then fine-tune on all of those rationales. And they say that we show that STAR significantly improves performance on multiple datasets compared to a model fine-tuned to directly predict by market. Does that remind you of Let's Verify? And performs comparably to fine-tuning a 30x larger state-of-the-art language model. He went on the GSM 8K and the math benchmark featured in Let's Verify are great test beds for self-improvement because model outputs can be evaluated for correctness more or less automatically. This brings us on to another strand in what all of this actually means for us. He said for more open-ended generation, humans often provide the feedback. However, as LLMs have gotten more capable, an interesting emerging ability is that they're getting better at evaluation for other things, not just math. At some point, if self-evaluation or self-critique works reliably, you get general self-improvement beyond math. So this is a further possibility for what might have freaked out most researchers. Generalizing beyond math is hard, as Andrei Karpathy pointed out this week.
So I think a lot of people are broadly inspired by what happened during AlphaGo. So in AlphaGo, this was a Go playing program developed by DeepMind, and AlphaGo actually had two major stages of the first release of the program. In the first stage, you learn by imitating human expert players. So you take lots of games played by humans, you kind of like just filter to the games played by really good humans, and you learn by imitation. You're getting the neural network to just imitate really good players. And this works, and this gives you a pretty good Go playing program, but it can't surpass human. It's only as good as the best human that gives you the training data. So DeepMind figured out a way to actually surpass humans, and the way this was done is by self-improvement. Now, in the case of Go, this is a simple, closed sandbox environment. You have a game, and you can play lots of games in the sandbox, and you can have a very simple reward function, which is just winning the game. So you can query this reward function that tells you if whatever you've done was good or bad. Did you win, yes or no? This is something that is available, very cheap to evaluate, and automatic. And so because of that, you can play millions and millions of games and kind of perfect the system just based on the probability of winning. So there's no need to imitate, you can go beyond human. And that's in fact what the system ended up doing. So here on the right, we have the ELO rating, and AlphaGo in this case, to overcome some of the best human players by self-improvement. So I think a lot of people are kind of interested in what is the equivalent of this step number 2 for large language models, because today we're only doing step one. We are imitating humans. As I mentioned, there are human labelers writing out these answers, and we're imitating their responses. And we can have very good human labelers, but fundamentally, it would be hard to go above sort of human response accuracy if we only train on the humans. So that's the big question. What is the step 2 equivalent in the domain of open language modeling? And the main challenge here is that there's a lack of a reward criterion in the general case. So because we are in a space of language, everything is a lot more open, and there's all these different types of tasks. And fundamentally, there's no like simple reward function you can access that just tells you if whatever you did, whatever you sampled, was good or bad. There's no easy to evaluate fast criterion or reward function.
If models can get good at generalization using reinforcement learning with any of these techniques, Ilya Sutskever has a slight warning that he put out earlier this year. He compared the creative results we might get to outbursts from Bing Sydney.
Reinforcement learning has a much more significant challenge. It is creative. Reinforcement learning is actually creative. Every single stunning example of creativity in AI comes from a reinforcement learning system. For example, AlphaZero has invented a whole new way of playing a game that humans have perfected for thousands of years. It is reinforcement learning that can come up creative solutions to problems, solutions which we might not be able to understand at all. And so what happens if you do reinforcement learning on long or even medium time horizon when your AI is interacting with the real world, trying to achieve some kind of a beneficial outcome, let's say, as judged by us, but while being very, very, very creative. This does not mean that this problem is unsolvable, but it means that it is a problem. And it means that some of the more naive approaches will suffer from some unexpected creativity that will make the antics of Sydney seem very modest.
So that's as far as I've gotten. I might be completely wrong. Let me know what you think in the comments. I think the development is likely a big step forward for narrow domains like mathematics, but is in no way yet a solution for AGI. The world is still a bit too complex for this to work yet. Anyway, time to move on to something more positive. After all, even Sam Altman can now get along with Adam D'Angelo, so anything is possible. I'm going to end with some positive and amazing news about music generation. But first, I want to introduce you to the AI Explained bot. If you're feeling bored, you may even want to discuss the contents of this video and QStar with the AI Explained bot. It has access to the transcripts of my videos, including this one. I'm proud to announce that they're sponsoring this video, and their playground is honestly amazing. In fact, I reached out to them about sponsorship. It's that good. Their playground is super easy to use, even if you're not from a coding background. And as they note, their speech-to-text model, Conformer 2, is state-of-the-art, and it is particularly good on alphanumerics. A perfect example of that is how it can transcribe GPT-4. That is something in my transcripts that so many models struggled with. Anyway, I have honestly thought that their playground is amazing for anyone to use for months now. And yes, it's literally just clicking to upload your audio file and then pressing transcribe. Anyway, thanks to Assembly AI, you can now play about with the AI Explained bot. After such a heavy video, I think it's only appropriate to end with a bit of music. But not any music, music generated by Google DeepMind. Their new Lyra model can convert your hums into an orchestra.
Like singing a melody to create a horn section.
Oh, that's super cool. So let's do 17, and then it'll bring us to 19.
As always, thank you so much for watching, and whatever happens, have a wonderful day.
I mean, do we gun for one more knowledge? I mean, let's just throw on Langer there, that's fine. Okay, and I guess it's pretty tough to do 1vx on Bard, so we might swap. I think we're gonna swap over to caves. Just seems like the correct move at the moment. And then see if we can grab a little more knowledge, maybe. Although, hell would be nice, but we do have a little bit of money, so we might as well go woodsman to 40 versus 38, 2 weapon damage. Yeah, sure. And then probably pickaxe. So we're gonna take the drum just so we can throw it at people if we need to. Yeah, that should be fine. Okay, here's our healing pot. We'll go to our alchemist. And maybe we don't need tranquility anymore. But I do tend to like get hit by stupid stuff all the time, so maybe we do. I'll give it a go. See what happens. Although I guess I should, well, I guess it doesn't really matter. Do we not have, oh, yeah we do. I think I'm used to my drum being on 3, so I think I'll have to swap it over there. $12:30, huh? Oh shoot. Okay. Yeah, that's where we want that. Of course. Okay, does this guy want to come over here? There we go. Fucking god, this is bullshit. Ooh. Is that a blue longbow? Might as well sell it to some bow enjoyers. Don't mind if I do. Guess I should not have used that one. Hello? Okay. This does kind of suck though. Switch networks. Oh my god. The lag, bro. Fuck, it's closing already. That sucks really bad. I'm not excited about that. Oof. Yeah, that sucks really, really bad. Okay, well that's not terrible. too bad at all. Miserable is this? Oh my god, no, please, why? Okay, well, I'm gonna have to switch networks. That sucks, though. Or maybe fucking knock it off with streaming. That is just horrible, though. That is just a really big bummer.
Managing a project in Jira can come with a ton of what-ifs. What if a high-priority issue falls through the cracks? What if I could auto-assign issues based on conditions I set?
Sounds like the plan.
What if I could free up my team to focus on what matters?
Okay, in this video I'm going to be talking about a new model from a new company, which is a foundation model, which looks very interesting. And they've also just released today a chat version of the model, which I'll have a little play with as well. This organization is 01.ai, and their model is Yi, which means, I'm pretty sure it means one in Chinese. They've basically released two versions of this model. They've released a 34 billion, and both of these are base versions. So they've released the 34 billion model. This is trained on 3 trillion tokens. And they have both a sort of normal version and a version that can go up to 200k context window for this. And they've released the Yi 6B model. So again, this is trained on 3 trillion tokens. It can go up to 200k for the context windows. So I'm not so interested in the long context window here. I'm not going to really be testing that out. I think it's quite consistent now that most of the models with these long context windows, including GPT-4 Turbo, etc., kind of proving that the long context window perhaps doesn't work as well as people had hoped or anticipated for this kind of
Where's
thing.
my plus
So
3?
these models are available for you to do research, and they do have the ability for you to get a commercial license for free. You will need to apply for that license.
So
They've
we
got some
have,
info
so we
here
get
where you
3,
can
so we get
apply.
5. So
If you
we'll
come
go
onto
up
their
to
Hugging Face page, you
20.
can actually have a look at these models. and get the details of actually applying for the licensing here. I'm sure they've got the links to be able to fill it out.
This is probably the move if we're
So
soloing, right?
currently up on Hugging Face, they've uploaded a number of different models.
Dude.
They've got
Join
the
our
one that we're going
Discord,
to look at is the
and then in theory we have 2 more.
billion chat model.
So we will
Interesting
do
that they've made their own 8 bits and 4 bits versions of this. I'm not sure what the intention is there. And
it'll
there's
hopefully
also
let
the
us
Hugging
run
Face
away.
user, the bloke has already also made 4-bit and 8-bit versions in a variety
So it's either
of
Harmony or
formats
Shield,
for if you
but
want to
Shield
run
isn't
this
like
model
super
in
good
Olama
anymore.
or
Like it's
something
okay.
like that. So this Yi 34-bit chat is the model that I'm going to be running. I'm going to run it in 4 bits so that it's easy enough for you to be able to
And then
load
for
it up and
now,
play
I think we
with it.
lizard.
They've got some nice
But I do have like a wide
documentation in
variety
here
of stuff I
about
can
the
use. So.
things that they've released, about the 200K
and then,
versions.
so
in here.
agility
And we
doesn't
can
give
also
me
see,
dexterity
like,
anymore,
the base
right?
model performance. So it's interesting
Manual
that they're
dexterity.
showing benchmarks for
Fast,
the base
yeah,
model.
okay.
And
So
only just
elf is
today,
not
it seems that
relevant
they've actually
anymore.
released a supervised fine tuning.
The question
or a
is, do I
chat
like speed?
model for this? So this is kind of interesting.
The answer
to
is
look at
no,
in here.
because
So
I
you see that
suck.
definitely the stats that they're
Oh, but that doesn't
getting
give health
are
anymore.
very good for things like MMLU.
It doesn't
for
drop health.
math
Okay, so let's
encode,
do
stuff
speed.
like that.
That's
So
fine.
this model can do quite a lot of things already.
And
That's
then I
the
guess
base
we
version.
need to
So
crypt
we're gonna be looking at the
because
fine-tuned
we have to
version
kill
of this.
skeletons.
So this
So
is the chat model performance in here.
I guess I should have
And one of
brought
the things that's really nice in here is that
Shadow,
they actually
but
give
you know.
the stats not only for the different size models, although so far I haven't seen the 6 billion chat uploaded. I think that could be a very interesting model to play with when it
Yeah, I
finally
played
does
with
get uploaded.
34B a
But
little
also
bit.
they've
I was
given
actually
the
pretty
stats
impressed.
for the 8-bit versions
Yeah,
and the
for
4-bit
with
versions of
I mean.
these models. So you can check those out and see, okay, how much do you actually lose going to
Ran it
4-bit
in.
contrary
Yeah,
to
well,
a lot of
I
the
figured out the other
models
thing I was trying to
on
figure out the
Facebook.
other day.
You actually lose something when you go to
It had
8-bit
some
or to
reasonable
4-bit.
performance.
Often that is not really noticeable. But it's kind of nice that they've benchmarked this out so you can actually see how it is when you're actually going through it. So we can see the chat model 34B is getting better scores for things like MMLU than the 70 billion
Oh, we already
Llama 2
have
chat
harmony?
model.
By
So
default?
again,
I
this is
should,
a very interesting kind of
should
stats
swap
in
it around
here.
then.
And as far as I know, they're one of the first ones to actually go and provide
There's my
different
one knowledge
4-bit
too.
and 8-bit
And we
formats
got 2
directly
lockpicks.
rather than
Okay.
just having someone else do the conversions
A
for
joy.
this themselves. So they've also got some nice info in here about their actual prompt. So we can see that they're using the ML chat style prompt. So we can content in there, so we can look at that. So we've got some stuff here about how to load it. I've already put together a collab on how to play with this, so we can have a look at it. Before we do that though, I wanted to talk about a little bit about the
Don't
company
have.
O1
Yeah, I don't
AI.
really want to mess
This
with this,
appears to
honestly.
be the new startup from Kai-Fu Lee, or Lee Kai-Fu. If you don't know who Kai-Fu Lee is, he was originally one
Don't
of
mind if I
the
do.
first CEOs
does somebody have
of
arrows?
Google
Yeah, this guy
in
had arrows,
China
right?
before Google scaled back
Cool.
their search engine business and other things in China. He's also been heavily involved in research Asia and China. Until recently, he was mostly a venture capitalist, but he's got a very strong pedigree in AI. PhD was certainly in things related to machine learning, etc. So it is kind of interesting that his startup has gone out and made these models. Now, the models use both English and
Oh, fuck.
in here. You can see that there's a bunch of things in here of this role that they've sort of aimed for. Stats that we've already looked at going through here. So I do think this is an interesting company. In some ways, you could think of this as being like a Chinese version of Mistral or a Chinese version of Inflection. The team behind it clearly know what they're doing. It's in my hand. They clearly know what they're doing. They've got good backing. Seems they've also got good leadership. If you are interested in Kai-Fu Lee, I would definitely recommend that you check out some of his books. So a few years back, he wrote a very good book called AI Superpowers, which compared China to Silicon Valley and around the whole AI space, which was very interesting. And more recently, we wrote a book called AI 2041, which is a very interesting book in that he teamed up with a fiction writer and they did 10 chapters of different sort of short stories of fiction that are revolve around AI. And then Kai-Fu Lee wrote a sort of sub-chapter for each of them explaining what the actual technology was and how he expects to see it progress over the next 20 years or so. This is something interesting. Both his books are very interesting reads, and I would definitely recommend if you are into AI, check out these. People have gotten back into the startup game personally, and that they're going really after the foundation of large language or in 8-bit in here. Of course, if you've got a big enough CPU, you'll be able to load the whole thing in 16-bit. In 4-bit, though, it seems to be taking up, for me, around 22 gig of VRAM on the A100 here. So unfortunately, it's too big to load into a free T4, but it's certainly something that you can check out if you've got access to an A100 or multiple GPUs. So like I mentioned before, they're using the ML chat format for doing messaging. So in here I can put in an example of the system and example of user message in here. We apply that with the personalization. We then run it through and and you see that the responses that you get out are actually very good in this. Not a huge surprise. I'm not sure exactly in their version whether they're using system prompts or not. I think so, but what I've done is I've actually done two versions of this, one without system prompts and one with system prompts that we're going through. So just setting this up, I've created the generate function to be able to handle this email chat, etc. And to be able to use just our standard generate function that we can pass in. So let's have a look at some of the examples in here. So first you'll notice that it seems to generate things in Markdown.
Go have a little swim, I think.
Nice. And you'll notice that it has definitely a different feel to a model like Mistral or some of the other ones. If you go through this, its answers can be quite verbose responses. Like it doesn't mind taking its time to actually tell you different things. This is kind of fit with me writing a very detailed analogy. It really does just go into the details much more than some of the Mistral fine-tunes or even the Llama 2 fine-tunes in here. You also find that it tends to do things like in bullet points, like things like initial points. So when you ask a question about a llama to Dakuma alpaca, you get this back where it's basically giving sort of a list of stats and bullet points that you can go through and do this. And you can see that, okay, while we get those sort of little facts about each one, we also get a summary at the end of combining these together for this. One of the standard questions I ask, of course, is the email to Sam Altman. It's kind of ironic given all the music going on with Sam Altman over this past week. I'm going to try to stay out of that a little bit, but anyway, we can see that, going through this, we're getting, pretty good results for this. Now, these are the ones where we're not using the system prompt. I do like, that the creative story writing on this is actually very good for this. But what I want to do is also look at using the system prompt version. So here I've basically gone through and now added in the system prompt. The system prompt I'm using is Yi, a large language model trained by 01.ai. Write out your reasoning step by step. So very similar to what we've used for Zephyr and for some of the other things. And you can see that it does pick up on this. So I found it was quite funny looking at the spec to the Sam Altman one, that where I tell it who it is in the system prompt or tell it that it's a large language model, it actually writes the email from the large language model. I am writing to you as Yi, a large language model trained by 01.ai, to discuss potential benefits of open sourcing GPT-4. Again, it's nice how we've got the bolding in Markdown here. So we're not actually seeing that in here, but you could imagine that if you're rendering that out, you've got nice bolded points for doing this kind of thing. and it signs off with its name, everything. So when we change that system prompt to "you're Freddie, a 5-year-old," we definitely get a hugely different email. So this is one of the key things that I like to
dang.
see. Okay, how
There's
well
pants
does
up
this
there.
do?
Rip.
And remember that when we
Yeah,
compare
maybe
to
we'll
the
have the
Zephyr
opportunity to go get 'em.
versions with their supervised fine tuning, they didn't have
The
system prompts, so it really
problem
didn't
is, I
respond
think I have
in
to
the
like
same
make it
way like
all the
this.
way
It
up and
needed to
in,
have
which is
the
not great.
DPO where they actually inserted the system prompt in there to get the results back like this. Again, letter to Sam Altman, this time from the vice president. We get a very good point-by-point sort of discussion of this. We even get some nice touches of things like PS at the end, basically talking about this thing being a bit more geared to trying to engage Sam Altman, probably a lot more than some of the other emails that we've looked at in here. Very nice answer for the Jeffrey Hinton part, that no. So it tends to give the answer up front and then explain in here, which is interesting. Again, another really good creative storytelling here. Just the idea of that in the heart of the Australian outback, where eucalypt trees sway sunsets and vivid as the story conversation of Bob. When it's told continue as Bob, it just sticks to that one role. That's the answer. It's not going and then the don't you ever play with that? So remember the grade school math thing, we're using this to test its reasoning abilities and see how well it does. It does very well on the recently a number of them are doing well on this, so it does make me wonder whether people are doing direct fine tuning on this example. It gets this one pretty much right. This should be $10 for 15 minutes. So it's basically got here $9.99. Yeah. Unfortunately, it doesn't do a good job of the monster one. So remember the trick here is that we want to calculate how many people died in the first year, and then it doubles for the second year, and then doubles again for the third year. So really we would have 4x plus 2x plus 1x. So it doesn't do a good job of working out like that. If I do phrase it though as x plus 2x plus 4x, so this is year 1, year 2, year 3,
I don't really want to go to hell.
Now it actually does go and calculate that out quite nicely in here. So have a play with this model. I do think this model could be really useful in a sort of Olama situation. Unfortunately, the 6 billion one is not up, but my guess is that you can certainly try that if you see that up here. Just swap out the 34 billion for the 6 billion in here. So again, another very interesting foundation model. Chat fine tune, definitely worth checking this out. Could be very useful for private models, something like Olama or Orange Studio, etc. Try it out. It's given a whole bunch of
Yoink.
So you've got a lot of options of how you can run this model. Anyway, as always, if you've got any comments, leave comments below. If you found the video useful, subscribe. I will talk to you.
You don't really want to go sitting downstairs without range. That's funny. 15 campfires, huh? Interesting. Surprised we're doing okay here. No, I think we'll call it there. We'll catch you guys later for GPT Jam, which is most likely going to be the case unless we decide to break stuff and everybody's already all signed up for that, which I think is unlikely, but we'll see. If there are there people here? Let's see. Is there a human? There is a human. Nice. Hello, human. I know it's not me because it started as 0, and now it is 1, so thank you for coming by, person.